QHuman 0.3.6 is now released, and there has been a complete rework of the code, a major performance increase, and along with some new features. So let's look into those features now. One of the new features is the replay feature. So let's go ahead and create a path. In this path, we'll have a left click, a right click, and then a left click. And if we play the path, we get our left click, our right click, and our left click. Well, here in the replay, we can set that to a different integer value of, let's say, 1. And then run the path again. And what happens is it plays the first path, but then it replays it one more time. And you can get really crazy with it. In this example, we have a single click with an offset of 200, a delay before click maximum of 0.25, along with a move speed of 0.25. Let's set the replay to 100. Let's go ahead and run it. And oh wow, can QHuman paint us a masterpiece. Shortcut keys. There are 2 officially accepted shortcut keys, and there's 1 non-official shortcut key. So if you select a path, you can do Control S to save. Let's give it a cool name like Why Not Program. Now back down to the intel in the second column, we now have a date display. This will show in the intel as well as the command logs so that you can actually visualize the date that it was created. Now let's look at what's new with the commands menu. If I load back in the Why Not Program save that we just did, by selecting the path and then right clicking, you'll get the commands menu. In the menu, we now have the save selected and create loop. Let's go ahead and select save selected. So that you can see a new change to the way saves work, we're going to type in the same exact name of Why Not Program. And looking back down at the Intel section, Why Not Program was now added again, but this time for the second entry, there was a 1. Every save needs to be unique. So if you use the same name, it will auto increment a number at the end. Not only that, when you're loading a save, you are not creating a new path. You're loading the original path. Why is that important? Because if you look at the date time, we have the exact same date time because again, you loaded the previous path. If I were to create a new path here and then select the path info, that is when your date time will update. So keep that in mind. Saving paths and loading paths will keep the same date time as of 0.3.6. Creating new paths will create a new date time and a completely new path. Now for the second new feature, which is looping. If we right click the path and then select create loop, what this does is wraps our path in a loop. So there might be times where you want to repeat just a specific section, but you also need to replay a certain amount of times. So just like replay for a path will replay the path, well, looping will replay an entire section of paths. Back to our original example of a left click, a right click, and then a left click. If we set the replay to 1, and then run it again, what happens is now it'll play our left click, our right click, and then our left click. Then it repeats our left click, our right click, then our left click. Now the reason why this is important, because again, let's say we go back and select the replay for the loop. Now we can loop our selected path along with its replay. So the path itself is going to run first, which is the left click, the right click, then the left click, along with the path replay. So that replays it once. And then we re-loop that entire path with its replay. So then again, we do a left click, a right click, then a left click, and a left click, a right click, then a left click. That's a lot of clicking. So this is not limited to just one path. You can have as many paths as you want, and it will loop those paths as many times as you need it to. So previously, there was an issue to where you could not set your maximum if you set your minimum to a number higher than, let's say, 9 or 10. So that has been corrected along with a new limit. Our limit used to be 99. Now your limit is 999, excluding mouse offset. Mouse offset can be bumped up to a maximum of 2000. With the new power management mode, you can run it on 3 different settings. You can run it on low, which is not accurate to the delays set, but will use less CPU resources. You can also run it on normal, which is almost accurate to the delays set, but it may spike in power usage for your CPU. You can also run it in real time. Real time is accurate to the delays set and will consume the most power, but you will get the best results. You won't really see a difference here, but later in the speed test at the end, I will show you the difference in power and what you can get out of the different power modes. It is worth noting when you're running in low, there is a slight, not really noticeable stutter. You'd have to really pay attention to it in the smooth linear movement. If you run it on real time, it is more fluid with the linear movement because again, you're running in full time, but again, it's not really noticeable. Now we have some new things in our help menu. The first one's going to be quick start guide. This just gives you a quick overview of how to use the program, a couple of knowledgeable things that you can reference if you forget. Until there is an official documentation page created, you will have to rely on YouTube videos and experimentation. But in these YouTube videos, I try to go as detailed as possible, explaining every feature that I can, any important detail of customization with the interface, and how the program itself runs. Next, you can submit a bug if you find any issues. Please, if you find any bugs, make sure in the details to include step-by-step how you produced it. If you have any screenshots, that is much appreciated. It'll make troubleshooting and solving your issue a whole lot easier. You also can submit feedback so I can understand if the early release is doing good, if it's doing bad, any improvements I should make, and stuff like that. Last one, you can request features from the request feature page. It looks similar to the previous one. That is because if you click on the roadmap, you'll see that the bug reports and feature requests are linked on the same exact page. So it makes it easier to jump between the two. But again, make sure to be as detailed as possible when you're describing the feature that you're requesting. So let's get our speed test results and as well running at different power levels. So I'll go ahead and set up my first click. The most important part for speed testing is to make sure you zero out everything. I want to start with real time first so you can see the speed test. The fastest one is going to be replay. I want to try 100 clicks per second first. Easy, we were able to do 100 clicks per second running at real time. Well, how about 1,000? It handles it with no issue. Well, let's try something like 3,000. And it looks like that is the limit of the program, right? Well, not really. It's a bit tricky, but you do have to play around with the settings. Setting it too high actually can give you a negative performance. How about 1900? Then we get 1600. A little odd, but again, as you play with the settings, you get different results. You'll find your sweet setting, and then of course you want to save it. I want to try maybe 1800. It's 1720, so that's good enough for me. Now I do want to show off running at low and normal. Now we know we can get 1500 with the program, so we'll use that as our base to see what it's like running in normal. All right, let's go ahead and give it a go. And running it in normal, we're only able to get 64 clicks per second, which of course you need to cancel out using the escape key. If I turn it down to low, the program only captures 10 clicks per second. Now, the reason that you would want to run it in low is if you don't need high performance, so that you're not stressing out your hardware or anything like that. If you needed to run it for an extended amount of time, then you would want to run it in low. If you need a little bit more performance, but again, it doesn't need to be real time, run it in normal. However, if you need anything above 100 clicks per second, then it is recommended to run in real time. But keep in mind that you are pulling the most performance out of your computer. So that marks the end of the 0.3.6 update for QHuman. The links will be down in the description of the video. If you have any questions, of course, you can directly leave them in the comment section below. I make sure to respond to all comments. And again, if you've already picked up QHuman, again, thank you for your support as it continues to grow and develop into a full-fledged program.